What's up, y'all? Welcome back to the Onyx Report, Black Masculinist news for the day. Hope you guys are well. Uh, you know, I saw this commercial a little bit ago. I thought it was interesting. And so what I ended up doing is I ended up posting it on my Facebook page. And all hell broke loose. But before I get ahead of myself, why don't I just show you the actual commercial? And you can see where I'm going with this.
Good luck.
She's so loud.
How is this feminism justified?
There's no wish, no wish.
You know what? It's not even important to have the sound. Let me just see. This is an H&M commercial, right? A larger black woman jumping off a cliff, floating in water, braids, and the whole thing. Followed by another and another and another. I'm watching this, and I just thought to myself, you know what? This is absolutely ridiculous. It is absolutely ridiculous. And the reason I say it's ridiculous is because all of this body positivity is hypocritical. It's hypocritical. So what I did is I posed the question: if this is genuine, are we seeing the comparable images on major platforms for men? Are we seeing the aesthetic choices in women, even those that advocate for body positivity, shifting? I mean, last I checked, when I was looking at, what's her name? Not that I listened to her music. I forget the big girl's name. Oh, goodness. The one who was fawning after Captain America not long ago. Anyway, I'm not really pressed about remembering her name. You guys know more than likely who she is. But the point I'm getting at is, do I see those women, larger women advocating for body positivity, searching after larger, overweight black men? Or what about really thin, short men? Wait, you don't even have to be really thin. What about short men, right? Any of those things part of the body positivity movement? Now, we know some people will pay lip service to it. And sure enough, in my comment sections, had a woman come in and she said that I was a liar. So what are you talking about? Why am I a liar? She said, well, if you were honest, you would talk about this. She posed this as evidence that a comparable amount of attention is being paid to men with what we might refer to as non-ideal body types. I said, you are ridiculous. I ain't never even heard of Thick magazine. H&M is a global brand. They got commercials that are seen around the world. This looked like something somebody made out of their garage. Anyway. I also had a conversation with another friend, colleague, and we were talking about this, and he actually, posted in the comment section of that particular post. And he started showing some images from a department store where they had these mannequins that were oversized. And obviously for the women, they looked very much like what you saw in the H&M commercial. For the men, they had some tall dudes, some big dudes. They weren't particularly round, as it were. But in an interesting way, you could tell that the way the men, even the male mannequins, were designed is they were designed primarily for the female gaze. This is the crux of what I'm talking about. Whether we're talking about body positivity, or whether we're talking about the sexual objectification of the male form, what we're ultimately talking about in both instances is a product of the female gaze, right? And in this instance, even female gaze of color, right? Women of color being able to dictate what they want to see in men. If you look at a show like Insecure, they did have for a moment a larger black male. He's a comedian. And I like him as a comedian. He's hilarious to me. A brother from Chicago. Y'all gotta forgive me. I'm forgetting all kind of names today. Lil Rel. He was in there for a minute. But he got dissed and left. And who did he get left? Who did she leave him for? Molly. Another model-esque man. Right? So, but my point in bringing up Insecure is in this particular show, when you look at the kinds of men that black women in particular and women in general want to see, they don't look like this H&M commercial. No, because that's ultimately what these kinds of body positivity movements are about. They're not about appreciating the male form away from the ideal concept. They're about getting men to appreciate whatever women present themselves as, while they cherry pick from the ideal selection of men that they still hold on a pedestal. Yeah. You heard a lot about a lot of celebrities coming after Lil Rel? Word. And look, I like the brother. Don't take nothing from me. I think he's a gifted comedian. Look. But if this body positivity movement is sincere, I don't see a reason why anybody shouldn't approach the brother or anybody that looks like him. Earthquake. Talented comedian, performer. What? So my point is, there's a hypocritical aspect to this that people want to dance around. And they want to dance around sexual objectification of the male form. And we only talk about it in regard to female sexual objectification, almost to the degree that male sexual objectification doesn't seem to exist. And it only doesn't exist because we don't talk about it. I once had a debate with this feminist, and she was telling me how black men in particular, knew nothing about sexual objectification. And she could not understand why I was on my ass, crying, laughing. Because I've been teaching this for years. I said, are you serious? The objectification of black men as nothing more than a large phallus for much of American history. And you don't think that's sexual objectification? But it wasn't that she didn't know what I was talking about. She had just never made the connection in her head that even the way she objectified men in her own life was connected to a larger critique about sexual objectification. She didn't make that connection because what happens to black men, as she once said to me, that's just that black male shit. She didn't make the connection that the very thing she was dismissing in regard to how black men were treated is the same concept that she advocates for all day long when it comes to women and girls, for that matter. It's not that black men and boys don't experience it. It's that we don't care that they experience it. That's all it really comes down to. And so now we're at a point where we can openly objectify men, and we don't have the visual vocabulary to call it out. So again, if you just say sexual objectification, I dare you, go say that. Ask people what they think of when you say sexual objectification. And you'd be hard pressed to find somebody that'll think of anything other than a woman or a girl. And then when you bring up men, watch how many arguments you find yourself in when it comes to people who want to make sure that the conversation, the real estate, as it were, of sexual objectification remains solely fixated on the female form. There is no equity in the conversation for men and boys, particularly black men and boys. And yet, there is. It reminds me, and I apologize. Had I thought about it, I would have brought it up, but you guys can find it pretty easily. There's this meme that you can find in Google, and on one side of the meme you have Barbie, and on the other side of the meme you have He-Man. And there's this long paragraph on Barbie and sexual objectification and unrealistic body types and how women have had to sacrifice and damn near kill themselves to achieve this norm. And it had this long paragraph. And then on the other side, when you saw He-Man, it had a short sentence that says, "This is He-Man." In other words, it pointed out that all the things you're talking about in regard to what happens to men, the unfair aesthetics imposed on them, the unfair expectations of bodies, of what their bodies should look like, the kind of idealism, and again, the objectification that goes with that, is somehow strictly the purview of women and girls. And yet, on the other side, this is He-Man. Now, why do I say that? Because nobody wants to see this. Nobody. Men aren't pushing to see it, but more importantly, women aren't pushing to see it. activists around body positivity aren't pushing to see it. People shame men, especially on in popular media, about their weight all the time. Yeah. Nobody cares because it's acceptable. We only know how to care when it comes to women and girls because that's how we've been socialized. We've been socialized to believe that they're the only ones that experience any type of body sexual objectification. So what I want to introduce you to today is male sexual objectification. And I want you to tell me about the conversations you've had in the past or that you have after this broadcast about that. I want you to tell me what came out of those conversations, whether it be with other men or with women. Just curious. Call it an unofficial sociological experiment. What are the reactions to the very concept of what sexual objectification? Meaning, do people immediately consider men when you ask them, when you just introduce the term? And when you say male sexual objectification, do they know what it means? Do they take it seriously? Or do they laugh? A couple years ago, I think it was like 2015, there was a brother in the Olympics who was in a swim competition. He was a larger brother, was overweight. And obviously he didn't win, but it was amazing to so many people how much of the conversation around him fixated on his weight. Nothing else. But that's not objectification. That's not at all negative. Not at all something that he should be protected from and that we should rally in the streets for. Why? Because nobody cares. If it was an overweight black woman or woman in general standing on, a little diving board about to engage in a swim competition and she's obese, if anything is said about it, it's immediately considered a misogynistic, this kind of bifurcated justice movement in regard to body positivity to me is ridiculous. It is. So, but I'll let the evidence of that not be what I've introduced here. I'll let it be the responses of larger, overweight men and very short men. Y'all tell me, how's body positivity worked for you? You seen an influx in women coming to approach you because they've recognized the way they've sexually objectified men? You let me know. All right? Y'all tell me. All right, y'all. Peace.